Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome back to Legendary, a James Bond deck building game, 007. This is the core set, so this is video number 3. So originally, if you watched video 1, where we went over all of the rules and how to play the game for people that either want to know what was different from the other Legendary games, or had never played Legendary, want to know the rules, that's in that one. We did say we were only going to do 3 videos, course, rules, and then we're going to do 2 movies, and then the second 2 movies. But they're taking a little bit longer than I thought, so we are breaking them up into each video being a movie. So this is video number 3, so this is the third, sorry, this is video 4, because this is the, sorry, this is video number 4, because this is the third movie. So we're going to go over GoldenEye with, Pierce Brosnan, so a little bit more, I would say maybe more of the modern era Bond, for people who are kind of familiar with it. So we're going to just go ahead and hop right into it. If you haven't checked out the other ones, the first ones were, Man with the Golden Gun was the second movie, and Goldfinger was the first movie. Alright, so we're going to look at Pierce Brosnan here. So we're going to see how he works differently as a James Bond than the other 2. So his first card is the common, which we have 5 copies of course. Which is Let the Chase Begin. 3 cost, 2 attack. If you play a blue card, choose a friendly player. They put a random card from their discard pile into their hand. Oh, so again, we're getting some more co-op in here. I like this. I like this as an idea. They're sticking to a lot more cooperative play between the different players. The random card is very interesting though, because I'm not like that's easy. You have to shuffle your discard pile and then randomly deal a card. So it could be a very bad card. It could be a starter card. Could be a card you just purchased. You can maybe time it very well. With somebody else and be like, hey, I just played, I just reshuffled my deck. I have like 1 or 2 cards in my discard pile that I just purchased. So it gives you a better chance of getting them better cards versus, when their discard pile is completely full. But yeah, very interesting. Alright, his second one is he's jumping into the strength. You have 5 copies of the T-55 tank. Wow, he's just bringing it all in. So it has 4 costs for 1, which is not very good to begin with. But he has a keyword called loyalty to the mission. You get plus X attack. So this is a new keyword for the game. So we have loyalty to the mission. Cards with this keyword represent Bond's dedication to our Majesty's Secret Service. Each loyalty to the mission card is X in its attack, where X is always equal to the highest danger among the missions in your victory pile. As you complete more dangerous missions, these cards will grow in power. So that's kind of neat. So like, when you first buy this card, at 4, it's only going to do 1 until you start beating some missions. The first couple of missions are probably only going to cost 1, maybe 2. So that brings it up to either 2 or a 3. I don't think there are any missions higher than 3. There's a 4 at least. So at least 1 4. Which makes it pretty decent, But that's kind of neat. Just that. It gets better as you go along. But it also has your character focusing on doing missions. Which is really kind of neat. Alright, his uncommon for 3 copies is Friendly Betrayal, another ranged 6 for 3 attack. If you play a ranged card or a blue, you get plus 3 attack, which can only be used to fight the mastermind. If you played 2, you get the same effect again. So this is a neat little mechanic. So playing 1 blue gets you plus 3. If you play a second one, so if you play 2 of them beforehand, you get the effect a second time. So that actually gives you a total of 9 against the mastermind, which can pretty much beat more often than not almost every mastermind. At least generally. I don't know if these guys are going to get up into like the Marvel versions where you have like a Thanos or a Galactus, which had like 25, but usually even then they had some way of knocking them down. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of a neat little card, for especially not being like a rare. Like one copy of this, I could definitely see that. That's pretty cool. All right, then his rare or ultimate is half of everything is luck. So another strength card. Costs 9, one of the highest costing ones, but it does 6, which is pretty decent in itself. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it has a strength icon, you may KO the mastermind. Wow. This ends the game. Don't draw a mastermind. You gain 10 victory points. Wow, that's a crazy effect. There are potential ways to stack your deck. I would almost argue you shouldn't combine this card with Marvel cards, because you could literally find ways to cheat the top card of your deck to be that on purpose very easily if you planned it. But hey, again, if that's what you want to do, you want to like play a card with like Nightcrawler as teleport to let you put the card back on top of your deck and then play this the next turn or something, like, right, there's ways to cheat that out if you think you need to win. I'm not going to stop you. It's your game. But yeah, it's a pretty cool effect. Even, again, if it's not, it does 6 damage. So that's pretty good as well. The only thing that I kind of don't like about this would be because, like, if you get this early on, it's like, yay, I got this. But you might, like, if I play this and it's that card, the game ends. And maybe you guys don't want the game to end that early because maybe you bought this kind of early. Because in my gameplays, on average, you only get to play these ultimate cards maybe 2 times in a game. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. If anything higher than 3 or on 3 as an average would be because you have a lot of special cards like you draw and do stuff, or you plan your deck where you've kept eliminating a bunch of cards, so you're just drawing, so you have a really small deck, so you're cycling it pretty fast. But typically, I think you get it for sure once after you purchased it, maybe twice. So hitting that time might not be super common, but yeah, very interesting. Awesome. I love it's just something different. All right, first up for our signature allies, I guess, named allies, is we have Natalia Simonova, who's our 2nd level programmer. So we have 5 copies of this. This is usually, again, like the love interest / femme fatale of the movie. 3 costs for 2 recruit, and it's a tech card. If you play another tech, reveal the top card of your deck, you get its printed recruit and attack. So we haven't seen it yet, but there was some in the previous James Bond movie, Man with a Golden Gun. We had some cards that had both symbols. So that's actually really fun if you can get some that have both, because I mean, this card is even more powerful. Yeah, neat. We have 5 copies of Searching for Help, a covert card, 3 costs for 2 recruit. If you play another covert, acquire a gadget from a villain, mission, or mastermind. If there are none, acquire one from the gadget pile. Not bad. To help pull it away from one of them so that they can escape with it and cause issues that way. Or if there might be some villains in this set that maybe gain this movie that might gain a bonus from having a gadget. It would definitely be more interesting if we started getting gadgets that had printed abilities. Because they're essentially the bystanders that were in like the Marvel games and stuff. And then eventually they started releasing special versions that had like, instead of just being bystander, it was like actor or construction worker. And then eventually they went even farther than that, and they started making like Pet Avengers or the New Mutants, which actually acquired as heroes as well. And those were fun because they gave finding them bystanders. They're capturing something that does something else other than just being there for the purpose of an effect on the character's villain card or for escaping. So yeah, this base set doesn't have any gadgets that do anything, but maybe some of the future expansions add some gadgets that do something, even if it's simple as like, if you acquire this gadget, draw an extra card or gain 1 recruit point. One-time effect might not even be helpful depending on when you would get it, but that would make this card a lot more cool. pardon the rambling. We have 3 copies of Trapped in Servania. 5 costs for 3. Again, double effect right there. So if you play 1 tech card before this, you draw a card. If you play 2, you draw an additional card. It's kind of cool. I like that as an idea. And then her ultimate is Lone Survivor. Another covert, 8 costs for 4 attack, which is in the highest, but says loyalty to the mission. Take up to X cards in your hand or discard pile. Yeah, this one could definitely be used more if you could use it repeatedly. Because you could potentially get rid of wounds or starter cards. But yeah, later in the game you play this once, maybe you only have 2 or 3 mission difficulty. Definitely can help out. And this also having multiple characters in here that would have it means you could spread this out, and then it gives each player a reason to maybe try and buy more missions or defeat more missions. Cool. Alright, up next we have some good old allies. So we have Jack Wade. 2 costs, it does 2 attack. The attack from this hero can't be used to fight the mastermind. Interesting. Bond is all about fighting the mastermind, and this ally's like, no, I'm not going to fight the mastermind. That's still not bad, right? It helps to take out some henchmen and stuff quick. We have 5 copies of Valentine Zakovsky, an instinct hero, our first instinct of the set. 4 costs per 1 attack. You may KO a hero or wound in any friendly player's discard pile. Okay, cool. It's like, great. 4 costs per 1 attack is not that great, but the fact is you can get rid of wounds or possibly a hero can again help trim some of the decks so you're drawing some of these more powerful cards better. Awesome. We have 3 copies of the Marines. 6 costs per 4 attack. Play a covert. Once this turn, you may put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck. Play 2 covert, same effect. So right here is James Bond's win condition. Play this card first with a covert in front of it. And if you have a strength card, you put it on top. And now if you had that card. But again, that means you'd have to have a covert card, this card, and that ultimate card, and a strength card in there. So it's not, again, like a for sure combo, but this is a way to let you do that. Nice. And then we have our ultimate. We have Psychologist Caroline, who's 8 costs and has 4 recruit, and is loyalty to the mission, draw X cards. Yeah, so 4 recruits, again, not the best. Usually when it's less than half, it's half or less than what the cost is, it's not always the greatest, but it always just depends on what that effect is. And the fact you draw X cards, so it could be 1, 2, 3, possibly 4, depending on which one you got. Yeah, drawing, like you may say 3 cards. That can be very helpful depending on what you draw. And this set seems to be focused on eliminating those weak point cards, those starter set cards. Or lower level cards. It's kind of helpful. Alright, then normally we have either vehicles or equipment, but instead of vehicles in this set we get MI6. So actually get Miss Moneypenny in this set, which is kind of neat, because so far she's just been part of the like side always there stacks. We get her by herself. She still gives us 2 recruit for 3 costs, which is the same she does before, but she also now has the instinct ability is that when you draw a new hand at the end of your turn, draw an extra card. That's always a fun thing to have, getting 1 extra card at the next turn. We also have 5 copies of M. 3 costs for 1 recruit. This is loyal to the mission. You get the plus X recruit. So this one's going to probably hit off a little bit more often because it costs 3. So you're going to get it, even if it's a 1 cost, 2 cost, it's going to build up very quickly. Then we have 3 copies of Bill Tanner. 5 cost for 3 recruit. If you play an instinct, you get plus 2 recruit. If you play 2, you get an additional plus 2. So either 5 or 7. Help you pick up some of them higher expensive cards like James Bond's 9 or some of them 8s. And then finally we have Q. which of course is our Gadget Man. Cost 7 has no attack or recruit, but instead it says, as you play this card, choose a card in the Q branch. This becomes a copy of that card this turn. It still has range in addition to that card's classes. So this is a very neat one as well. It could potentially be very good. It could also be very bad. Because it can be anything, so it might be a... Apologies, I sneezed there for a sec. Yeah, so it's wherever you're... I mean, what's nice is because it's not necessarily mean you're going to play the highest. You could have another ultimate sitting on the table, one of the other rare cards. And this could copy it for free, which is really cool, because you basically get another effect like that. But on the other hand, maybe you want to copy a 2-cost card for some reason, right? It does have that extra versatility to it. So like just saying, like example, like this could be sitting out there, and you could copy that and get that 6 attack and potentially win the game. But, you know, it might just depend on what you need. Like, maybe this card's out and you really need to acquire a gadget from a villain, mission, or mastermind. Because, again, maybe one of them gains extra bonuses for having one. And that might be more beneficial at the time than you gaining 6 or 7 attack. Yeah, it's neat. Because one of them cards that could be used very well. Plus, the fact is, you also look what's at the board and be like, oh, like, maybe this card, maybe that card, but definitely not these two. Maybe purchase 1 or 2 of those. See what else pops up. So that's actually a really fun card. Alright, our final hero group of this movie of GoldenEye is our equipment. We have the grenade pen. So let's see if Q wants to steal any of his own inventions. 1 cost. I like that there's 1 cost cards in here. It took forever for Marble to get some. Like, they're just kind of nice because you could buy them potentially on turn 1, or just an extra card to throw on your deck later on. Gives you 1 attack. If you have a strength, you get an extra 1. So yeah, it's not going to give you a ton of extra stuff, but it is very cheap, and it's not you could afford to get rid of later on. We have 5 copies of the grappling belt. Which is a tech card for 4 for 2 attack, loyalty to the mission. Load the top X cards of your deck. Discard any number of them and put the rest back in any order. Good. Stacking your deck, very helpful. Again, could set up Bond to use his last attack as well. Then we have 3 copies of Time Bomb. So I think we have a dual one for... We have a dual one for each color. We had a ranged. I think we had a tech. We definitely had a strength one there. We have a covert and an instant. Yeah, so each different sets had one of these double sets. That's kind of fun. And a loyalty mission as well, I believe. So we have a time bomb. It says 5 cost, 2 attack. If you play a strength, you get 2 attack. And if you play 2, you get an extra 2. So 2, 4, or 6, potentially. Cool. And then we have Laser Watch. It's our ultimate here. Cost 7, gives you 2 attack and 2 recruit. So we could have that earlier card. That she lets you gain 1 of each of those. Yeah, so this one, reveal the top card of your deck, and you get its printed card. So yeah, again, if you can stack this on top of your deck, that could work with that. But that's the only card in this movie that's going to do that. You may complete a mission for free if you do KO this card. So yeah, 4 for 7, not always the best, especially because it's 2 and 2, so it's going to have its limited uses there. But completing any mission for free, although you do lose this card, this could mean the difference between victory and losing at the end of the game. I wish this was a little bit cheaper for that effect, because even still, yeah, I get that technically you could use it to defeat like a weight mission that costs like 6 or 7 or 8 or something higher, especially by the time you get this card. But like, using like the inevitable mission came up. Great, I use it once, I lose this, and it sets the inevitable back 1 turn. So I wish either had better stats or, like maybe even like shuffle it back into the Q branch, right? You used it, you have to shuffle it back in, now you have to repurchase it. Yeah, the chances are that maybe it's going to come back out and you're going to be able to repurchase it and find it in your deck are very slim in the remaining time of the game, potentially, but at least it's a possibility versus it's a one-time use. So, I don't know, interesting. Alright, let's look at our starter cards. We have our 8 copies of Pierce Brosnan, 007, with his fiery image behind him. We have 4 copies of the basic starter 00 Agent. We have our 3 copies of Mrs. Moneypenny, who goes into the full deck. And this is, of course, Samantha Bond. Last name is kind of ironic. Then we have our 5 special cards, which only include 1 in your deck, but we're going to see what little Pierce Brosnan's has. Standard field issue. Does 2 attack. If you play a range, you get an additional 3. So, right off the bat, first couple of times you play it, it will still be 2, but eventually it could be a 5. Special upgrades. Gives you 2 recruit. If you play attack, you get an additional 3. That's kind of neat. So each one's going to bounce off playing an additional color, which is a lot of stuff we had in this set. So this one's really focusing on playing the colors before each other. Champagne for 2. Gives you 2 recruit. If you play an instant, you may KO a hero or wound in your hand, deck, or discard pile. If you KO in your deck, shuffle it afterwards. MI6. 1 attack. If you play a covert card, draw 2 cards. Ooh, that's nice. And then Bond, James Bond. Play 2 attack. Reveal the cards from your hero deck until you reveal a James Bond hero. You may gain it for free, then shuffle the rest back into the hero deck. Cool. So it's a neat thing to think about how to play these is, so like each James Bond has their own basically starting picture card in that. So it's like you could have one person be the Daniel Craig, one person be Sean Connery, one be Pierce Brosnan, one be Roger Moore. If you're playing a 4-player, playing 5, then someone else also has to be Sean Connery. But you get these 5 starter cards. So the idea is, do you take the one that matches your character, or do you take these 5 cards and spread it amongst the 5 players that go with this movie? Because on these fitting, because I could see doing it either way, but like with this set, if you do it this way, if each player gets one of these, then you have one player that's kind of going to be of your potential 5 players. But if you have one of these starting cards, it's going to kind of push what direction you get. So if like I end up getting this James Bond card, I'm going to go for strength cards, which then means I'm going to probably try and purchase this card to go with it, because I'm going to want them strength cards. The same fact as somebody else, you know, if they get the instant one, they're going to go after the instant cards, because there's a lot of stuff in here, you know, covert, you know, that are relying upon the multiple colors. So like these, so if you just play with these and each person gets one of these special, this Pierce Brosnan era card, it kind of pushes your deck already starting to go that way. Versus if I just play Pierce and I get one of these, yeah, then I'm going to focus that way, but then someone else can be doing their thing that doesn't necessarily reflect the cards in his movie. But then when you start mixing and matching them all, that might be more where, you know, if you pick one hero of the 5 hero classes, sets, or hero decks, or whatever you want to call them, you pick one from each different movie, from 5 different movies. We only have 4 in this set, so if you're using expansion, then you might want to have each player take the card that matches them, because then they have a little bit of interaction that way. Very, very interesting. Alright, let's look at some villains. We got our mastermind, Alex let's see if I can say this. Trevelyan, who always leads the GoldenEye group, Master Strike. Each villain on assignment acquires a gadget. So we have that lady that talked about getting gadgets. This is probably why. If there are no villains, the mastermind acquires a gadget. Special rule, gadgets can only be acquired by villains and masterminds, not by missions. Villains get +1 attack for each gadget they have. Traveling gets +1 for each gadget he has, and each escaped villain. So he starts off as 006. Which means he doesn't start off very powerful. At 6, it's decent, but not the worst, or not the best. But yeah, every time he gets a gadget or a villain escapes, he's going to go up. And the thing is, if you get gadgets, you can defeat him once to steal all them gadgets back and drop his attack back down. Make it a little bit easy. But every time a villain escapes, there's nothing you can do about that. That's pretty crazy. I also love it's 006. It's supposed to be, I believe he's like a traitor. His tactics are, you're supposed to die for me. Fight. Each player tails a James Bond hero in their hand, discard pile, or that they play this turn. Each player who didn't have one gains 2 wounds. And take out his Bond. 006. Fight. Each player gains a 006 extra card from out of play. Cool, so I have to go look at that. I'm going to see if we have, those are the extra cards here. So we're going to look at those really quick. So we have 5 copies of those, 1 for each player. So what those do is, now these are just basic ones, so 006 extra. Cost 0, it says when you draw this card, discard it and a 007 basic starter hero in your hand. So when this comes up, it's basically you're going to draw, you're going to discard. So it's like a wound, essentially, just wasting a card in your hand, but it might also take out one of your starter cards as well. Which, granted, they're not always the best. They're 1 attack, but the fact is that's 2 less cards you have in your hand every turn. Very cool. Then we have the GoldenEye Satellite. Fight. At the end of your turn, after you draw a new hand, discard each of those cards with a class symbol. Wow. So everything but your starter cards, it just shuts down your hand for a turn. And then what an unpleasant surprise. Count the number of open on assignment spaces. Play that many cards from the villain deck. Open spaces are right, inevitable don't count. Crikey, so it's just going to fill the board right up. So basically, if you defeat him, then this happens, it fills the board back up, so that now you have to hope you still have enough attack to defeat at least 1 villain, otherwise something's going to escape on the next player's turn, unless they happened to get a Gadget, Mastermind, or Master Strike, or Steam Twist. Be the only 3 other ways to keep that from expanding. So maybe you might get lucky, but those are all, except for the gadgets, the other ones are bad anyhow. And then if one does escape, then now it becomes 1 harder to beat. Pretty cool. Very interesting villain. Alright, then we have his villain group. So we have Deck A, we have General Aryumov. Fight. You may fight the Mastermind for free this turn. Ooh, interesting. Xena on top, who has Squeeze. Alright, this is a new ability as well. So let's look at the handy dandy book says for this. Says Squeeze. When a card with Squeeze enters the on-assignment, tail the leftmost and rightmost spaces in the queue branch. Those spaces won't refill until a card with Squeeze leaves play. If there are 2 cards with Squeeze in play, together they'll keep the left 2 and the rightmost spaces from refilling. If a 3rd card with Squeeze is on assignment, then queue branch will be empty until at least 1 leaves play. So they'll keep them in there, but they won't refill. So once you purchase them, they won't refill anymore. Yeah, so it's a pretty nasty card. You get too many of those because it could shut down all your buying options. For Deck B, we have the Defense Minister Michigan. Villains on assignment next to Defender Minister Michigan have +1 attack. The Armored Train Chase. Which we went over a couple of times. Just going to briefly describe it. Just when it comes in, before you play, after a villain card comes out, before you play any of your hero cards or do anything else, this moves 1 space forward, pushing anything in the way. Fight. When the first time this is fought, it loses chase but isn't defeated. Alternate side of the show is Lost Chase. Interesting. So basically, if you defeat it once, it shuts it down. But yeah, you have to defeat it a second time. That's cool. We also have another Xena on top, who has ambush. Each player gains a wound and puts it on top of their deck. Then she squeezes again. So yeah, she also has squeeze, so you have to watch the multiple copies of her out, because then they can keep wrecking your board. Oops, I grabbed the wrong pile. Alright, for deck C, we got Boris Grinchiko, who has ambush. Tail, tech heroes in the Q branch. Ooh, interesting. And then we have another one of her, Xena on the top, who has ambush. Each player gains a wound and puts it on top of their deck. Squeeze and persist. Which I think we saw persist before, but we'll go over it again really quick. This card would be pushed off the assignment. It said stays where it is, and the cards pushing it will escape instead. So basically, she comes in, now she'll just stay on the board, and keep using that squeeze ability on you. And then the last one there is we have General Aryamov, we've seen already, came back. Ambush. The Mastermind must be fought an additional time. After all Mastermind tactics have been played, it must be defeated one more time. Would cost 8. So it's kind of funny because this first one, he was the first guy we did. Lets you fight him for free. And then now he's like, now you have to fight him an extra time. I also, generally, when I play lots of times, I will evoke this rule just in general anyhow. You defeat the 4 tactics, so you have to beat the Mastermind one more time. Just that way all 4 tactics actually get their ability used. Otherwise, the last one just kind of ignored. And it doesn't matter what it is. So this would actually mean I have to defeat him. Instead of 5 times, I have to defeat him 6 times. I just have to add 1 more to that. Alright, then we have some missions. So let's look at our missions here. It's the Worldwide Financial Meltdown. So that's the name of the mission. Our first one is Infiltrate Archangel Facility. 4 to defeat. Mission gets -1 for each covert hero in the Q branch. So you haven't playing very much with these colors. Ladies First just has chase. There's a car chase in there. Gonna push stuff forward. In deck B, we have Stop the Theft of the Stealth Copter. So this also has chase, also has flying. Flying we've seen before in the other videos. What it does is the mission here will enter in the first open space. So instead of always entering on the rightmost and pushing everything, it'll find the first empty hole and enter there. Also means if there's no empty spaces, this just flies over everybody and escapes immediately. But this could also push some later cards out of the way that maybe you didn't want, because you might have been like, oh, I have spot 3 open. Something drops in, it'll push cards 1 and 2 to spot 3. Here, this will jump right to spot 3 and push cards 4 and 5, so it might push them out of off the board. So it's going to be very deadly to leave 1 space open for that. We have Find Janus. When you try to complete this mission, take a wound. Shuffle it face down with this card, and then reveal 1. If you reveal this card, complete it normally and put the wound back. Otherwise, gain the wound and put this mission back where it was. Wow, that's interesting and fun. So every time you try to complete this, you have a 50-50 shot of either actually beating it, or just gaining a wound. And then you have to try it again. That's crazy. And then also in deck B, we have Armored Pursuit for 8 cost. This mission gets -2 for each strength hero in the Q branch. These are nice because they make them a little bit easier, and you could, again, try and potentially see me good. Be like, oh, okay, I have 2 strength in here, or I have 1 strength on the board. Buy something, see if another strength comes up before you fight it. Ooh, that helped. But it also means if this guy's sitting out, and let's say there are 2 strength out there, and he's down to 4, if someone can't beat him, they might be like, dude, I can beat him on my next turn. Just don't buy the strength card. You might have to, kind of stop. Interesting. In Deck C, we have Survive 6 minutes. Failure. Starting with the active player and continuing clockwise. Each player gains a wound until the players have gained a total of 6 wounds. We haven't seen too many failures on these missions, but it is nice to see them. Just because it puts a little bit more pressure on them. Reprogram GoldenEye. Oh god, those are some old dated computers, aren't they? Well, this isn't a victory pile. Each time an inevitable card would move, the active player reveals the top card of the deck. If it has a recruit, the inevitable card doesn't move. Interesting. So when you beat this ahead of time, at least stop the inevitable card. Which obviously, once the inevitable shows up, this will have already been out, but you gotta make sure you beat this card. Our last for Deck C cost 12. Destroy the control room. This mission gets -3 for each tech hero in the Q branch. Wow, that's expensive. And then our inevitable is going to be escape the exploding dish. This mission can't be completed. Evil wins. Ooh, that's mean. So like the other ones have all had, the other 2 so far, not all of them, but the other 2 have all been like, if you beat this, move it back 1 space. Maybe it does something, gets you one gave you a wound and 1 increases its difficulty. This one's just literally like, you have to beat it. But now luckily, you have this card you could potentially do to keep it from moving. But again, since the top card of your deck is a recruit card, so it might not be. And again, you only get 5 chances at that, and there's no way to do it. So I feel like this is a way to like put a time limit on the end of the game. Very interesting. Alright, then we have some henchmen. So we have our Deck A, which costs 4. And we have 3 copies of those. We have 4 copies of the 5 attack ones for Deck B, and we have 3 copies of the 6. So these are actually a little bit more difficult than the other ones. But they're the Russian soldiers. They say fight with the top card of your deck. If it is a hero, you may KO it. No, it says may because if it's a starter card or maybe a weaker card you don't want anymore, like a 1 or 2 cost card, you might get rid of it, but it's not going to force you to get rid of your 7 or 8 cost card. But yeah, that's really neat that we get that. Then the last 2 cards we have for this are our Steam Twists, which again can be used with any single deck at all, but they're kind of tailored for this movie. We have the Worldwide Financial Meltdown, which uses the mission group of the same name. Set up 5 Steam Twists. Twist. Put this twist in each KO'd twist next to a mastermind as EMPs. When a player triggers a special ability, KO an EMP. Special, you can't fight the mastermind with any EMPs next to it. Oh. Danger level 5. Put this twist in each KO'd twist next to the mastermind. Each KO twist next to Mastermind's EMP. When a player triggers a... Oh, I see what happens. Okay. I was a little bit confused on the wording here. So, whenever a player triggers a class special ability, so that is, just as a quick reminder for anyone, that is one of these. You have to play something that has one of these symbols in front. You have to play something. So every time you trigger it, you KO one of the MPs. So like when the first twist comes out, that goes next to him. You have to play a thing to get rid of it. And it KOs it. Now when the second one comes out, that one goes next to it, plus that KO'd one comes back. So now you have to play 2 of them to be able to fight the mastermind. Then when the third one comes out, twist comes out, you'll have at least 3. Because it'll be that one plus potentially the other 2. Either they're still there because you haven't defeated them yet, or they've been KO'd and they will now go next to it. So by the time you draw that 5th one, you have to defeat 5, play 5 of those before you can even fight the mastermind again. That's pretty neat. That's a cool game mechanic. Alright, and our last one is Fake Your Own Death. Set up 5 Steam Twists. Shuffle together 5 random mastermind tactics from outside the game to create a fake identity pile. Ooh, interesting. And this could definitely become even more cool with multiple sets, because then you could use one from each different set, you know, kind of cool. So Twist, play the top card of the fake identity pile, then KO it. Danger level 7. Yeah, that's interesting, because there's a lot of them that are pretty interesting or nasty, like, to pop up. And again, since you can use them in any set, any sets of characters, you can mix and match all these. Yeah, that's crazy. Like, right, say if you're using this with a different character, and, like, this one pops up, all of a sudden now you have more villains. Or, like, the KO the James Bond one could pop up. The only that would be interesting would be the, each player gains a 006. Like, right, this pops up in a game that has nothing to do with it. Or, in the last one, we have Man with a Golden Gun. If you drew that one, you had to draw that Man with a Golden Gun card, which potentially, every time stuff would happen, you might have an instant loss come up. You could be playing this, and you could have shuffled that card into it and had that prepped up instead. Like, playing this ahead of time, that could potentially be one of the cards that pops up. Like, this villain here, Alec Trevelyan, could accidentally, or could actually end up pulling out the Golden Gun, get that equipped to him, and then potentially have a chance to defeat you all the time. Something he normally wouldn't have access to doing. So that is pretty crazy. But that's also fun. That's a neat mechanic of the game. Like, I can't imagine something like that working in, not that it couldn't work in Marvel, but that could be very crazy too. In a scheme like that, because technically these are all legendary games. There's no reason why you couldn't mix this with Marvel or Predator or, you know, Buffy or whatever. And they could add some very interesting little mechanics with that type of stuff. Alright, so that was our legendary James Bond 007 GoldenEye set. So we have one more video after this for the core set, which will be Casino Royale. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Hit me up in the comments. I'll probably end up picking up the other sets so I can get the other 4 movies. I hope they keep making more of them. Although I can see how this game might be a little bit tricky to keep doing it, because there's probably some of the gadgets or characters that may be, like, repeated from movie to movie in the same era. So it might be tricky to get a lot of them characters together, but it could definitely be cool. Hope to see you guys later. Bye.